I've wanted to get Austin on here for a long time. One of the nicest dudes you're going to meet. And I've just enjoyed really getting to know you some over the past couple of years. So
likewise.
Yeah, man, like tell us a little bit. I do like your system. It's great. And I'm glad that you're going to get to talk about it a little bit. I know people using it too who have highly recommended it. I should have asked them if they care if I bring it up. Maybe I'll text him while you're talking. Just make sure he doesn't care. But yeah, I do know a few people that are using it, and they've had nothing but good things to say. Obviously, it's you kind of. I think they even started when it was like beta stage, but I'll let you kind of tell where it's at and all that. So
cool.
But yeah, Austin Mitchell, I'm glad you're here, dude. Thank you for coming. Finally, he's a freaking busy dude trying to lock this guy down.
Yeah, no, I feel like, hey, this is the right timing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
That's
this
right.
was meant to happen. And so, yeah, I really appreciate, the option to be here, guys. Big fans of what y'all do. And, it's really cool coming to your office. I've never been here before. So
I try to come hang out here all the time.
It's nothing special, just an old little building, but it's ours.
You know what? I felt special coming in. Seeing the different things that I've only seen on camera. Now I'm seeing them in person. It's really cool. And then seeing Chuck out there. I mean, he's just one of my favorite people in the space.
He actually comes in 9 to 5. He's here every day.
That is amazing.
He is.
He's here every day?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Super cool.
Yeah, Chuck's a good dude, man. He's a solid guy. I like him.
All right.
But
so
yeah.
to tell you a little bit about Synota, I'll
yeah.
tell you a little bit about myself and my co-founders first, because co-founded Synota with my older sister, Lisa, and a longtime friend, Alan. And so the three of us have all worked in energy our entire careers, in different parts of the business. But, you think about front office, back office operations across the value chain, like you mash up our careers and we've kind of touched almost every part of it. And, it was really interesting. So in mid 2021, just really started kind of dive more into Bitcoin mining. I had, since 2018, been buying, I'm a skin in the game kind of person. So I've been buying it, learning about it a little bit on the way, but I wasn't sort of all in, and I really didn't know that much about Bitcoin mining. But it was right at that early 2021 time with the China ban. I'm hearing, working for a utility at the time, I'm hearing, okay, there's a lot of this, miners are coming here, they're going to consume a lot of power. We're getting phone calls. It's just kind of a buzz. And so I started to do some research into it. And, what's really struck me was like, hey, this is an energy consumer that is like 10 years ahead of anybody else. Like what they're just going out and doing are the things that people are still writing academic papers about and still building models about. And they're just like, no, give me the real-time prices. I'm going to flex my load. Basically, they were just, exactly who everybody talked about we need to have on the grid, and they just went out and started doing it. And then being location agnostic, that just like is the icing on the cake. Because my entire career had been, how do you bring energy to people and things of that nature. So that being the spark that kind of brought the three of us together talking, we saw all this innovation happening, but the one thing that wasn't changing was how Bitcoin miners were paying for their energy. They were paying for it just like everybody else. And so, it's usually at this time I tell people, hey, look at your energy bill and you'll see you're paying for energy you used 30, 60, sometimes 90 days ago.
Right.
And so that whole system is really one where people assume they're getting a free loan from their utility, but there is no such thing as a free loan. And one from your utility is actually way less efficient than the one that you may get from a bank. And so we started really, digging into everything that we had learned throughout our careers and understanding all of the layers of inefficiency that exist in the energy system because of the fact that you have this disconnected value. So when we kind of summarize the problem we're solving, we're saying there's 3 value streams in energy: money, data, and then the energy itself, the molecules and electrons. And those 3 value streams, they all settle differently. The data are siloed. You as a consumer, rarely get sort of real-time access to your information. The money, we already talked about that occurs, after you've consumed the energy. So how are we going to, really drive innovation in the energy system? How are we going to get to a place where, real-time prices are everywhere, where markets are more decentralized? And the only way you can get there is when you pull all 3 of those value streams together. And so, we were blessed to link up with some engineers at our, so Max and Colin at our Bitcoin meetup in Columbus. And I'm talking to them about what we want to do, and I'll never forget, Max, his little line was, "Oh yeah, we can solve that. Like we'll build this on Lightning." And so that really, began, taking what was an idea of a problem that we wanted to solve and how we wanted to solve it, which was, hey, integrate these things together. And he said, yeah, we can build that platform. And so that began, late, really kind of December, January was when, I think the first, lines of code were written. And then this past June, we launched our product commercially, and really focusing on, providing a daily settlement of energy contracts. Now, our software can work at really any frequency. We can settle an energy contract every 5 minutes, every 5 days. But when you think about sort of where the industry is at today, how can we solve that problem in the most useful way to both the energy producer as well as the energy consumer? It's removing that 60-day cash lag, and it's paying as you go. So every day your contract settles, the value has been transferred in terms of money, but also in energy, and then both sides have the data in real time.
And that is what I think oil and gas producers that we're still so early with a lot of them that they don't realize like what even Bitcoin mining can do for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you throw in your guys' kind of platform and software on there, their ability, I guess not software but platform, but their ability to realize the revenues from their production being sold on a daily basis, that's a big change from what they're doing right now.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this from like the utility perspective, but now that I'm putting like my operator hat back on, I think that we could have, so we used to have a little strip oil operation up in Tulsa, and every run that we called in was like, like $10,000, $11,000 at the time, which was a lot for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you called in like 4 runs over the month, you didn't get paid, like there was a cutoff date, and then you got paid, I think it was around the 21st, 22nd, and then you got paid on like the 27th or 28th for everything that happened in that month.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could be like lean on cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they could have 40, 50 grand that's just sitting there, we're waiting to get paid, and then some of that doesn't make the cutoff, and then that automatically gets pushed out another 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
tough, dude.
That's
why
this
tough. Is such to me a big advantage for an oil and gas operator that's looking at something that might be like marginally economic to tie in,
Mm-hmm.
or even something that's shut in because it doesn't make sense. It's like, look, number one, you're going to be able to sell your gas, and there are some more mining groups, one in particular, Upstream Data, that's doing some pretty cool stuff as far as making it more advantageous for operators to sell gas and kind of have exposure to Bitcoin mining without actually having to go do a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
put capital forward. Which anybody wants to talk about, you can give me a shout and talk to you about it. But they're doing stuff like that, so operators are going to be like, okay, that's an advantage. And then when you throw on top of it that you can go and kind of realize your revenues immediately,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big one because of the very reasons you just.
well. I mean,
out.
for one, it's much easier to run the operation, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have cash in real time.
Yeah, think if you have a workover, right? You have a workover.
Yeah.
But then you're not going to realize that production coming back online
For all the lost production.
potentially
Yeah.
60, 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it allows you to be able to invest instead of the lagging 30, 60, 90, 120 days.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to grow. It's like, hey, if I've got the cash now, I could invest in the workover. I could, at a much larger scale, drill more wells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Well, and one of the things that, it helps from our experience to know why is the system the way it is today, because a huge part of what we've built is something that is, we use the term non-invasive, where, it doesn't require an energy company to change the existing processes to use our software. Right. And so it's helpful to know that, well, the reason why we have 30-day billing cycles and, net 20 payment terms and all these things is really because, it started with the fact that we used to have manual meter readers. They would walk neighborhoods. Well, they can only get to your house once every 30 days.
Yeah.
And so then we built.
Is that why?
Yeah.
Is that? Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
It's a good reason to keep doing it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so now we have digital meters. So you've removed that constraint. The data go directly to the utility. But then the constraint point moved up then to the utilities billing system, which is built on mainframe computers. So those computers are only designed to do 1/30 of the bills every day.
Wow.
So you just the further you go up, you just keep running into these constraint points. And so ultimately what, we recognize is, well, you're not going to get out of, or at least right away, the need for this industry to have this 30-day process,
cycle,
end of month.
right?
Yeah. They have a cycle, and it's ingrained in everything they do. So what we've done is we built a solution that works with that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're bringing the daily settlement. There's, cash going to the energy producers, bank account on a daily basis. But then we produce a monthly report that provides them and says, here's what you billed for. Here's how much cash is sitting in your bank. So when you run that bill, you just apply the cash to that invoice. And, if there's any reconciliation amount, you can still send that invoice, or you could send that invoice for $0.
Right.
But the point is, it's to just work with the system as it is and do all of what has been, really our biggest investment as a company is a lot of the accounting and back end reporting that is exactly what the energy industry needs to keep functioning the way they are. They don't change, so we got to work with it.
They don't change. You're right. I mean, oil and gas companies notorious too for kind of doing the same thing they've done every day for the past freaking 100 years. But
they're good at pumping oil.
Right. Yeah, they're good at pumping oil, man. There's no need to change. But have you thought about taking this to, and I know we had talked about this previously briefly, but taking this to, even if it's not being used for Bitcoin, but from like an operator standpoint, because I can see it pretty beneficial for jibbing your non-op working interest owners too, and kind of settling things with them on a daily basis. Is there a way to do that with kind of a cash system, but utilizing Synota?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the first thing that is available today is automated profit sharing. So this is for Bitcoin miners, but also for if you have multiple parties, who have an interest in the production. So if let's say there's a JV of a solar farm or of an oil well, you can have the JV be paid out from that consumer to both parties simultaneously. So both a Bitcoin miner who is doing profit sharing or a Bitcoin miner now paying multiple parties, all happening automatically, all happening behind the scenes. So that's exactly right. Is we looked at the fact that in energy there's so many daisy chain payments. That's one of the other big sources of inefficiency. Is when I pay my energy bill today, I pay it to my utility, and then my utility 15 to 30 days later then pays my supplier. So not only was there that 30 to 60 day lag to my utility, but then my supplier has an additional 15 to 30 day lag. And then, and then they pay the transmission company and the producer that they bought it from. So all of that daisy chaining, all of the, difficulty in actually distributing money out to, profit shares or LPs, whatever, all of those things are slow, they're inefficient. And so leveraging the fact that, on the Lightning Network, Bitcoin becomes programmatic. You now can really, our motto is if you can build it in Excel, you can build it in our software. And so however complex that model is of distributions, it's we can now automate that. And what we always make sure people understand is that even though we're using Bitcoin Bitcoin for us is an instantaneous medium of exchange. It just gives us that programmability of how you can transfer value from one party to another. But then the parties on either side can work in dollars or Bitcoin or in, most of the other countries in the world because of who we're partnered with.
Oh, okay.
There was a company in oil and gas that was kind of like the darling child east office next door. For a while, they raised probably $15, $20 million. The idea, very similar. They didn't quite tackle the same kind of problem, but they were kind of like dancing around it, right? And they wanted to have some more settlement on particularly on a project basis, right? I think that you guys are looking at it in a much better way. But the problem was that they created their own blockchain, and then they required every one of their customers to like set up their own nodes, and they were still like struggling to find use cases, but
you're trying to get people to do something completely different.
Yeah, and you guys are going within the exact workflow plus just leveraging Lightning. You're not building any of your own. Like
that's right.
You guys are handling the actual process of
so the infrastructure, our software spins up automatically for the customer, but when the customer pulls up our software, there's nothing, all the complexity is taken away. It's literally we talk to a miner and say, hey, this is now your checking account on the Lightning Network, and it has that same look and feel. So you can put in the addresses that things are going to go, you sign your contracts, but there's nothing in there that says I need to learn how to route funds on the Lightning Network or I need to manage liquidity. That's all taken care of.
That's the part that I think it makes it even more attractive. Same with kind of what I was saying about Steve Barber's deal. It was like you're eliminating the things that they don't know, right? That they're scared of. And you're taking on that responsibility for them and allowing them to basically operate in a much more efficient manner, but in a manner that they are comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's nice about it. Like
Yeah.
they see the value of, oh, wait, I can settle my payments now rather than 30, 60, 90 days.
They may seem small to people, but that is, especially in oil and gas, that is key. It has to be within existing workflows and tools, and there needs to be pretty much no learning curve whatsoever. It should be as simple as possible.
That's exactly right. And so I think that has been our goal from day one is to provide that experience. And I think one of the things you brought up, so there have probably been at least a dozen blockchain startups. Like this is the problem that we're solving is not a new problem. It's been known for a very long time. But the emphasis up to this point has been, let's do this. Let's create smart contracts. Let's do something on Ethereum or you name the blockchain. But our thesis has always been, well, an energy company is not going to learn how to stake a token in order to use the software.
100%.
No, they're not going to do that.
And so we don't ask them to. We don't ask them to do any of that stuff.
You mentioned a token, and it's just like, all right, meeting's over.
Meeting's over. Yeah.
Like this is
so there's just no way to kind of get that type of thing over the line because it's too much change. And so we provide this in a way that there's no exposure to Bitcoin if you don't want it. There's no tokens. There's nothing like that. It is simply cash in your bank if you're an energy company.
I just like that a lot more because I think it'll catch on.
So do you guys have custody of this, or are you purely just routing it to their existing bank account?
So yeah, that's I think one of the cool things, and really a testament to our engineering team for how they've architected this, because here us as we kind of describe ourselves as we're energy maxis as a team, myself and my co-founders, but of course learning about Bitcoin every day, but when the people that we've learned the most from are the engineers on the team, and so they architected a solution that I couldn't have dreamt up myself, but they architected in a way where it's a decentralized product. So the wording here is we probably need to come up with a better way to describe this to truly answer the question of, well, what is your node as a customer of Synota? What does your node mean? But a simple way to kind of think about it or framework is it is an agent acting on your behalf. And so you have the full control of that. You are the only one who can access the money and the data on that node. But it's loaded with it's loaded with software that has, pre-programmed how to settle contract A, how to settle contract B. So it has all of the knowledge that's then loaded in there, and then it can just perform your AR, your AP, your settlement, your reporting. It just does all that then automatically for you. So we say, agent is a legal term, so that's why I hesitate to use the word.
Yeah.
I'm not using it in the legal context, but it's sort of acting as that way of, it is your agent. We at Synota have no visibility into your data. We have no ability to access your funds. So that's what's unique is in this world of more, as the pendulum is swinging towards decentralization, that's what's cool about our software is it's a decentralized software. And so we get to provide a service that normally would require you being a custodian, a regulated entity across, multiple, different aspects of the code. And, we're able to say, well, no, what we're doing is we're just enabling two parties to automatically transact with each other. And they're cryptographically secured between each other. And so all of that is now happening in the background to where we can just provide the software. We can make sure that the software is set up and going to function for your business. But after that, you just sit back and watch the money flow.
How are you configuring, I guess, or interpreting on the contract side? Are you converting those into like smart contracts, and then everybody is kind of agreeing, and then just go?
Yeah, so I think the concept of a smart contract is I think a really good starting point for what we've done. So think about a smart contract. Another way to describe it is it's self-enforcing. So it grabs real world data. It's going to apply the contract terms, and then ultimately, enforce it and then make transfer value in whatever that the underlying currency is. So you can start there as like the notion of self-enforcement, a contract that can execute or enforce itself. Now, what we've done though is different because in a typical smart contract, done at a layer 1 blockchain, what it's going to require is that it gets consensus across the whole network. So all of the nodes in the network need to now write that transaction in and document that before the smart contract can be completed or settled. And so what we've done is because we're on Lightning, we don't need to have a consensus between all of the nodes. We just need to make sure that the parties to the contract, their two
Agree.
nodes work. They're in agreement. And so they have this ability.
Like old school contracts.
Right.
Like the old school contract. So we've really replicated what happens in reality.
Yeah.
And just said, so it still does the process of you take a paper contract, you today Synota will digitize the terms.
Data,
yep.
Right.
Connect to your data. So you've got the meter data or market data coming in. You've got your basic contract terms. They're all digitized. Again, if you can do it in Excel, you can do it in our software. So it's all loaded into your node, into your counterparty's node. And then all that happens is during the settlement process, your nodes are communicating back and forth, agreeing on the price. And then once there's agreement, then the payment automatically happens. So we talk about this as being really collaborative enforcement, not consensus enforcement.
Right. Which is part of why I think companies are going to be much more, they understand that more. It's easier to explain. I know a lot of people, I don't understand exactly what a smart contract is. You just explained it much better than I've had any type of understanding about, but it's confusing. Like if I go in there, I'm trying to sell somebody something, it's like,
it's hard enough to have two parties agree. Imagine if you have 6 parties agree,
Mm-hmm.
particularly like when the company was mentioning on these big projects where you have like all of these various contractors. That became a huge hurdle for them because there became disagreements immediately, right? Every single step of the way, right? And nobody was ever to come to any sort of agreement. So it defeated the entire purpose.
Yeah. And from a security standpoint, what we're doing is a big improvement too. So it checks it's a huge enhancement, and I think what we're talking about, I'm not even going to be the best person to explain it, but one of our engineers really talks about sort of the game theoretic aspect of what we're doing and how it's an optimum relative to the layer 1 consensus approach. And then just to save the fact that it saves a ton of data because you're not everybody's
right.
Both parties have this immutable record of all their transaction details, and those are the only 2 people that need to have that record. And it's auditable and they're ready to go.
Yeah, I like it. I think too with small miners, like we our firm, Martin Legal Group, call us if you'd like some legal representation.
So it's got to be one plug per show.
Yeah. They are the best.
Well, thank you, Austin. We represent a bunch of kind of smaller miners. We have some big ones too, but a lot of our clients are kind of the smaller, mid-sized groups that this to me is a really efficient tool when you're trying to kind of maintain a lower head count and you're still building your company. It works great obviously for large companies too, but it's almost imperative to me is like this removes a lot of your issues that you have with trying to handle like AR and making sure you're getting payments to operators on time and whatnot. It's like this is just removes a lot of the headache that I think they deal with. Well, I know they deal with because I did it for a while. This would have been really nice to have, 2-3 years ago at Jay. It would have saved up a lot of time. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I sat there messing, trying to figure out UTXOs and all that, and doing it, I mean, all day long.
Yeah.
So this would have been really, really nice to have back then. But I think it's something that we really just need to get you guys more well known. And I know your presence has definitely grown a lot from when I first met you guys. And I think that he's got like the look and like the sound of like, he got the hoodie and everything. He's like
all of it.
You got it, man. You
Thanks,
got like
man.
the whole,
I'll take it.
It fits you perfect. And I mean, he's got his little like Steve Jobs deal going on now too. I don't know if you saw
that may become a new thing.
Can we get like a picture?
We'll throw it up there.
Yeah,
Jacob, throw it up there.
Yeah.
Bing. There it is.
Because he looked great. He looked just like Steve Jobs.
That's amazing.
He even had like the hands like this.
Really?
Yeah. It was,
and a very majestic glow thanks to the lighting.
Yeah, it was
pretty
perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, I was impressed.
I see it.
So
what kind of companies are you working? Obviously, you're working with miners now. Outside of the miners, who else are you guys working with?
Yeah, so right now we're working only with Bitcoin miners.
Okay.
And you think about when you talk about settling an energy contract daily, the first thing that's really triggering for an energy supplier, producer, et cetera, is credit risk, because they are today they're selling power to Bitcoin miners, and they have 50, 60 days of AR outstanding at any given moment, and that for a large Bitcoin mining site can be millions, tens of millions of dollars. And so what ultimately energy suppliers are doing is they're requiring collateral to be posted to cover that credit risk. And so now you have a Bitcoin miner posting, millions of dollars in, or putting that into another company's bank account, and it's just sitting there doing nothing. And it mitigates the credit risk, but it's really not an efficient way to mitigate that credit risk. And so where we are able to, find the middle ground and bring value to both the suppliers as well as the miners is with that daily settlement. We're working with energy suppliers today that are now giving that collateral back to the miners. So now they're getting their cash back. They can reinvest in their operations. They can grow their business. And the energy suppliers are really happy because they just took one of their riskiest customers and they moved them to the other side of the distribution. And now they are the least risky customer. And every energy supplier loves how a Bitcoin miner performs on the grid. So now they are the best operational customer and the best financial customer. And so they're getting daily cash flow directly to their bank. So it's this two-sided value proposition, really focusing on removing credit risk, is what is bringing people, that's why we get phone calls today and people wanting to use our product. Operational efficiency, we just actually had somebody for the first time in all of this called us around operational efficiency as their focus.
Really?
And that was really fun. At the end of the conversation, I told them, I said, this is the first time that like the headlining thing wasn't getting my collateral back. Because that's one of the key things. And we focus on the efficiency side because you talked about, ARAP. We're working with a hosting company today that they are collecting from their miner using our software and then paying their supplier using our software.
That's great.
And so in that way, they have no AR and no AP. And so they get to now focus on building their business, focusing on the core part of their business without having to, we've got to build a billing process. We've got to, do all that stuff.
In the ass, man, honestly. Like no offense to the accountants out there, right? They're very important at every company I've ever been at. But dude, that is just, especially when you're small, it's a pain in the ass. So like removing that aspect of like the day-to-day is freaking huge.
Sorry if you already covered this, but are you transacting specifically just in Bitcoin?
So today, what we have available commercially is for Bitcoin miners to pay in Bitcoin, for the energy suppliers to receive Bitcoin or dollars. We did just start our first customer in October doing, paying in dollars. And so we're really excited, to bring that into the fold, giving more payment flexibility. Ultimately, the goal is that you as an energy consumer or as the supplier, you're going to be able to kind of look at your treasury, on a daily basis. We want to ultimately be a tool that works well with your treasury as a company. And so if your decision is during the next bull run, hey, we're going to, as a supplier, take 5% of our revenue in Bitcoin, great, our software can enable that. Or if you as the miner want to pay in dollars one week and then pay in Bitcoin the next, those are the things that we want to be enabling is currency flexibility to really maximize your buying power of energy.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to your question about, so we focus on Bitcoin miners, but why, doing the dollar piece is important is because, well, a lot of big energy consumers don't have
Especially
Bitcoin.
if they're public, they won't even touch it.
Yeah, they won't touch it.
They're just like, and so like, I want to make a lot of introductions for you. And so I'm trying to think of like my Rolodex and I'm like public. I'm okay, well, do you transact in USD or
That's
can
right.
you? Right.
So yeah, well, that is what we're working on now. We've got our beta customer up and running and I would say, I learn not to give timelines in software development, but it's progressing really well in terms of, it's up and working. Now, when do we actually sort of offer that commercially and how do we, enable, flexibility on a day-to-day or week-by-week basis? Those will be the next questions we'll answer. But the key thing is that, Bitcoin mining being, given who they're interacting with, from an energy supply standpoint, they have this credit risk. They are the first customers we're going after. But every energy supplier we talk to says, there's other people at the bad end of that credit risk distribution from our eyes. And, they would be great ones to go to next. So we need the dollar solution to serve those customers. But then I also just think more broadly around large flexible loads, intermittent generation, all of those batteries, et cetera, those types of resources on the grid, they are all acting in a much more dynamic way than what we have traditionally had to build our systems to support. And so it's been my experience that the most complex contracts for the largest customers, whether at the utility I worked at or the retail shop I worked at, those were all high touch, very manual settlements. And so we're thinking about, as more and more customers start to fall into that complex category, we have a solution that's extremely flexible to where now you can digitize all those contracts and settle them. And so now you can actually be bringing, do what we're doing, talking from a value perspective. But one of the cool things is because we're on the Lightning Network and how we've configured our software, today it's consumers pay suppliers, but we know that we're in a world where now the suppliers sometimes have to pay the consumer for grid services and things like that. Well, we enable that as well. So now it's two-way value flow. And so that's where what we see as kind of that immediate next jump is really just into that whole emerging dynamic space within the energy system. And so that's where we go from, Bitcoin mining, which is a big industry, to then high credit risks, to now all the dynamic complex contracts where you have, bi-directional value flow.
There's so many use cases. I'm just running through a million in my head. Let's talk about one that I'm not super familiar with, but it comes to mind. I'm sure you guys have thought about it. What about on the commodity trading side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been, so we talk, when we kind of get to that level, we talk about sort of the energy economy. And so you have commodities, physical commodities. So, oil, gas, hydrogen, electricity, but then you have all the derivatives. Then you have energy investing. So, the capital side, and then you have the climate side. So all of those things fall into the same, they can all be, the framework I'm talking about can be applied to all of them. There's nuance to each, but it's the exact same way because, I've worked in a trading shop where, margining on hedges, is something where, you're either writing checks one week or cashing them the next.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a ton of credit risk, caught up in those transactions where if you can just be settling on a continuous basis, well, now you've freed up capital for your business. And you're not having these big lumpy, checks coming in and out based on what's happening in the market. So you'll have more of a real-time view of your position, both, in position in terms of how you see it in your dashboard, but also your position in terms of your cash. And so I think that's one of the interesting things when it comes to the investing side. What gets us most excited about is thinking about emerging markets. There's the economic value of investing into an energy project in an emerging market is orders of magnitude. A kilowatt hour is orders of magnitude worth more in an emerging market than it is here in the United States. I mean, we leave our lights on like it's nothing, right?
Right. It drives me nuts. My kids do it all the time.
Well,
I feel like my dad.
When it doesn't mean anything.
Put a quarter in the jar.
Yeah. And so when you think about why is there not more capital flowing from developed countries to emerging markets to support, in a private way? You can look in these places and it's mainly, public capital, utility capital, NGO capital that's funding a lot of the projects that are happening there. It just doesn't make sense why private capital isn't going there until you actually kind of peel back. Okay, what are the reasons why? And one of the top 3 reasons when you talk to anybody is the repatriation of funds. So if I do make an investment in an emerging market, okay, it's got to run through a third party who's going to have to do an international wire, so it's all extremely inefficient. With the Lightning Network, now you can have where if somebody's connected to your mini grid in Africa and they're consuming electricity, you can be being paid wherever you are in the world instantly.
That's true.
And so you're taking that currency risk, that friction completely out of fund repatriation. And there's credit risk there too, just in the delay of it all. So, that's another example of something that can be really enabled through technology like what we're building at Synota. And so we get pretty excited about that.
Have y'all raised money?
I was literally going to ask, are you guys raising money right now?
So we raised the first round of financing.
So that's like a never ending job. But.
Yeah. It's interesting. So, I mean, I've spent my entire career and not as an entrepreneur. So this is a new life for me and something that I never been having more fun than I am now. I really enjoy all the aspects of it. So yeah, I mean, I think there's an element to my role and what it is that I need to be doing, which is always kind of thinking about, how we're capitalizing the company, how are we planning for revenue, for expenses, et cetera. So yeah, I'm more every day, more and more understanding and appreciating, but also just acting on what does that mean for me? So yeah, to your point of always raising money, more and more I'm realizing that, that's the mode of, that's always got to be part of my job. And so we raised our first round of financing back in September of 2022. And yeah, so with where we're at today, growing as we are, we're definitely trying to, figure out what are the resources we need to really meet the demand from the market. Because we do need to hire some folks right now to keep up with the demand. And so that's a great place to be. And so, yeah, you run the models, you figure out, who do you want to be partnered with on this next phase of your growth. And so, yeah, if anybody's listening and they're interested in what we're building, I'd love to chat. It may not be now, but it may be down the road. These are all
good to build those relationships.
This is, it's part of, I have an energy network, and now I'm, building a capital network. And I really love those conversations because, I guess as a personal thing is I just operate by getting feedback, getting opinions. That's how, you're continuously sort of refining yourself on the path of life. And also same applies to your business. So it's helpful to kind of have that network, growing now as it is. Because now I'm way more in tune with what the market's like. And, you can understand, well, why do certain companies get valued at certain levels and others don't? And so, yeah, I'm going to school there every day now, and I love it.
How many people do you guys have?
So we have 6 full-time. 4 of us are in Columbus, and so it's great because we actually get to come to an office, every day, and get in front of a whiteboard. So yeah, we're a small but mighty team.
I love it.
I do love it too, man. Every time I talk to him, I'm always impressed. And
I'm bullish.
You're
I'm
easy
bullish
to
on you
impress,
guys.
Ballard, come on.
I'm very bullish. I'm glad he finally got on here. Yeah,
me too.
I'm very bullish on
I see the TAM.
Right.
Like, it's enormous. Like you said, it's this whole like global energy economy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you continue to take over the Bitcoin mining space, but then expanding into whether it be oil and gas, whether it be the renewable side, the commodity trading side.
Everywhere.
Like, it's so big. And I think that's what's exciting about it, because you see most companies, most widgets, right? And it's like, yeah, you have a good sized market, but this like literally touches anything where money, data, or energy flows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is like
I think
I don't know, $100 trillion market or whatever it may be.
And it removes the obstacles that's keeping a lot of them on the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is basically an understanding of it. This
is it's a universal problem.
Right. You can step into this. You can use this to step into another industry that's opportunity heavy for them, and do so without having to kind of change everything they've done or learn an entire new kind of ecosystem that they're not used to. So
that's right.
What's the business model for you guys? Is it a subscription, transaction?
Yeah, so we charge a transaction fee, and basically that's kind of the industry standard.
It's a convenience fee. I mean, it's that's
time value
of money, and you guys should be rewarded for that.
Yeah, and so I won't put it on the podcast, but what I'll say is that you look at sort of the incumbents in the space. So I can tell you that when I pay my utility bill today, Fiserv is my payment processor, and Fiserv charges 2.5% to my utility for the privilege.
Yeah, Stripe's about 2.5% too, because we use that as our payment processor for.
There you go. So well, we beat them.
Yeah.
and
so
we make
nobody's
it very
gonna
affordable.
Nobody's gonna complain.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, and I think just kind of stepping into this whole new world, we're also a company that doesn't have any AR, because we collect our fee, as the funds are being moved on the Lightning Network. So
you're utilizing it for yourself.
Yeah, I mean we're I can't think of the expression now, but sort of we're eating what we cooked. What's the expression? That's not it.
I don't know, but I know what you mean.
So we're in the same space, and it makes our lives simpler, and so we're able to conceptualize a scaling company that doesn't need to think about all this back office infrastructure that we need to build, because we don't.
Which is such a distraction from actually like focusing on building the company.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, totally.
Chasing AR. I mean, the number of people we talk to that are chasing AR around, and just hanging out there, and they're putting people on payment plans. Just like, oh, that sucks. Like, I will never do that as a company.
Yeah.
Dude, how long before like QuickBooks, like Intuit or Visa or Master, somebody comes knocking and it's just like, we want to gobble you up?
Oh man,
like
you're seeing. I think the space is of course, if you're in payments and you're not paying attention to the Lightning Network, you're behind.
Yeah.
And so what's I think good is that most of we've gotten to have conversations with folks that operate their own closed networks and are in payments, and there's varying degrees of awareness to some of the biggest ones really interested in this. So I would say it's not long before you see people start to make moves in the space. I can tell you that as a company, we we are very excited about what we bring to the table from a team, and so we're just pumped about growing as fast as we can, and doing and bringing as much efficiency and capital, unlocking as much capital in the space as we can in the shortest amount of time, because we believe in an abundant energy future. And so how do you bring that forward? Well, it's exactly what we're doing with our software. It's driving more innovation in the space, bringing more capital in, and so we're here for the ride, and that's what gets us all excited. I mean, so we have this purpose of create an abundant energy future, and that's what we show up and work on every day.
You guys are gonna crush it. I already know it.
They are, dude. They are.
Thank you. Well, we are crushing it, but we're gonna just crush it a little
You're
bit.
gonna, I'm talking like
You will, though. It's going to happen.
And it's a testament to the team. I mean, I get to come here and do these kinds of things. I just would just highlight, like, I've never, in my having worked in corporate, I think this is what I would tell anybody that says, like, hey, what is that like, working in a startup? And I'm sure you guys have gotten to experience this in your careers as well. Is like, there's you don't get to always pick your team and who you work with when you're working for a large company. And I've worked with some great people, but there's nothing like working with 5 other people that you trust 100%. It makes every day an order of magnitude better.
Yeah.
That and less stressful and all that other stuff.
Totally. And that is something I'm glad you said, because I've noticed that being around you guys a little bit. Just, I haven't been around you guys as a collective group a ton, but I have been a few times, and they do have just a good vibe, because it's not always that way, even in the entrepreneurship world. In fact, a lot of times it's not that way. They really do have like a very cohesive, like, good chemistry, good vibe.
That's hard to find.
Yeah, it's hard to find, man. It's hard to find, even being in startups and all. It's probably even more hard to find. So
no,
yeah, I've always been really impressed with him and the whole crew you guys got over there.
Thanks.
So
I appreciate it.
I'm a big believer, and I want to see you guys succeed. So I'll sing your praises to everybody.
Great, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
of course.
I'm bullish.
Thank you.
I've got a lot of things I want to talk about off the mic.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm here for it. This is an exciting time. You couldn't ask for better conditions to really kind of, I think, attack this problem.
Oh, yeah. This is building time.
This is building time. Yeah. Cost of capital is high.
We're getting to the end of we're getting to the end of where you can get in super, super cheap right now. You know what I mean? I think we're coming into the time where you're going to see the next halving, and that's not a guarantee that things are going to react the same way they have in the past, but it is an indication of what could happen. And I just think you see all the things kind of lining up. We haven't talked about like the ETF and all that stuff, BlackRock, but you're starting to see, I don't know, you can feel these things almost. Like it's the vibe starts changing. It's almost like it's just a gut feeling, and that's not what I'm basing it all on. But there are things in the news. The whole dynamic has shifted. You got, not trying to profit off of the war drums going, but it's like that's what happens, right? You start seeing more printing and all that, and it's just kind of, we might be getting ready to go into another one of those phases where we might see some potential Bitcoin uplift. We've seen it over the past couple of weeks, but there might be more ahead, and you're going to start seeing that bleed down into the infrastructure costs of wanting to get in. So we could be coming into that time. I hope we are.
I saw crazy inflation stat that I was like, oh, I feel that.
Yeah.
So remember when we were kids, it's like you make 6 figures, like you make just $100,000 a year. You're like,
man, yeah,
you're making it. Like that was like the first milestone of success, and then being a millionaire was like the which now it's like whatever, right? But now like the same equivalent of that, like when we were kids, is like I think it's like $500,000 a year.
Jeez,
it's insane. I saw one the other day. It was an old news clip about how hard it was to buy houses in San Diego. It's like, it's impossible a house in San Diego right now, dude. Interest rates and just the cost has been exploding. This is from the 80s. The average house cost in San Diego, what would be your guess? Because what do we now is insane.
No, I can't imagine.
Average house cost in San Diego, I have since I lived there, probably $750.
It was $80,000 in the 80s.
Oh, in the 80s. I thought you said now.
Oh yeah. Oh. $80,000, and I'm like, good night. That's crazy. Such an indication of the value destruction of your dollar every day.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? And it's not going to stop. So it's made to go on that way. And that goes back to the very start of what I'm talking about. And this is all fake. We think all this stuff is like, oh, this is how it works forever.
I don't know if you've seen the stats on more people are defaulting on car loans right now than ever. Nobody's talking about it.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
It's going to be like 08 all over again, but worse, way worse.
Really?
Yeah. Average car note right now is $850 to $1,200 a month. And it was the same thing as 08. They weren't doing any credit checks. They're just like, yeah, we'll just come in and we'll sell a car to anybody, package up all the shitty loans, swap them around between the credit unions.
It's not good.
It's coming.
It is
the reckoning again.
Yeah, it is going to happen. I just got my new car too.
Your new old car.
I buy an old one.
Oh, you did?
An
Okay.
old.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm selling mine, getting someone old.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really?
Man. I'm embracing my entire attitude on everything. I got an old 94 Defender, an old Land Rover one. It's freaking mean though. It's loud and it's diesel and it's freaking dope.
Nice.
I can't wait to get it.
It's like the only people who drive those are like hippies like him and like Saddam Hussein. So it's like
yeah, it's like one or the other. I'm
But
definitely a hippie.
I bet you look good in that car.
I think I would. It's even the right side driver. So,
No.
Yeah.
Nice.
oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's cool. That's
Super
really
dope.
cool.
Is it manual or automatic?
Manual.
Oh shit.
And I'm a lefty,
and
so it
diesel?
worked out. And diesel. I can
Wow.
freaking.
Is it a 6-cylinder diesel? Or 4-cylinder diesel?
No, six.
6-cylinder?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 6. It's a TDI 300. It's pretty dope.
What is your dream car?
That.
That is. Okay, you've got your dream
You
car.
made it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You
That's
made
very
it.
cool.
Now it's got a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm not gonna lie, but the saggy ceiling.
Yeah.
Remember like those old '80s
Uh-huh.
cars? Like that's how ours was all the time. So, and I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot more needs to be done. But yeah, man,
That makes it fun though.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
it fun. Something to do.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? There's not a ton of stuff to do. I'm not a Houston hater. It's been good to me, but there's not a ton of stuff to do other than like go out like to dinner or whatever.
It's a social city.
It's a social city.
right? It's a social
Right.
city. It's a business city.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been kind of feeling the same thing. We
Yeah.
talked about it, right?
Yeah.
Like something about, kind of maybe getting out of the concrete jungle for a season,
Mm-hmm.
going out west somewhere and maybe unplugging for a bit.
Yep, that's
Sounds
how I'm
nice.
looking at it. And like it will happen at some point soon. So
Good.
I'm gonna get a camper I can pull behind that thing and just live on the road for a little bit. You know what I
Nice.
mean? Like a weirdo.
All right.
That's right. That's right.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm
Very
excited. Well, everybody goes through their new seasons in life sometime, and I'm in mine. So
Mhm.
Yeah, mix it up.
excited.
Let's let this guy get down to El Salvador.
Yeah,
and
man.
Hit the
Yeah.
beaches.
Yeah, dude.
Speaking of getting away for a few
I'm
days, I'm
jealous,
excited.
man. Next time you're going, let me know. I always find an excuse to go.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to be coming to Houston more. I mean, I've been here for a day and it's been extremely productive. So I need to spend more
Good.
time here.
You should, because I do think that this, obviously being the oil and gas hub that it
Mhm.
is, I think this is.
Yeah.
I think what you're building is, perfectly suited for.
Mhm.
Oh,
For
100%.
them.
Yeah, you get some more time down here. And then next time we'll give you some food recommendations.
Oh,
Sounds
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
There's-
you went to a good one with Marshall last night.
Yeah,
Where'd
that
you
was
go?
really good. Umami, I think
Oh,
it was
okay.
called.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta get to.
It was really good. Well, and he of course had, all the favorites
Yeah.
ready, and it was just sort of a tour of incredible food. So I liked
yeah.
it. And the
I
other
will-
person I met up with last time I was here was Mario Gutierrez.
Oh,
and
Mario's
Oh, the
a
Mario
boy.
probably took you to a
Yeah.
lot of good
Mario
spots.
took me to a great. What is it's a Tex-Mex place that
I was gonna say taco place. Is
The
it-
there's like 3 of
Papacitos?
them. What is it?
There's 3 of them.
I think so. There's like 3 of them, and it's like the place you got to go.
El
Oh,
Tiempo?
So-
there's
yeah,
like
I think
there's
so.
El Tiempo.
think
there's
so.
a lot more than 3 of those.
Maybe not.
Well, I think there's 3 though. Just kind of
Okay.
Mario lives very much.
You got
inside
El
the-
Tiempo, you've got Lupe Tortilla, you've got Papacitos. That's my favorite.
Really?
Personally, yeah.
Ah, man, I love
Had
El
Papacitos
Tiempo.
before. El
My
Tiempo
mom
was so
managed one
good.
when I was like a kid. So
El Tiempo, the filet fajitas are freaking.
Oh yeah, you had to
super
like
dope.
you almost had to roll me out of there after we
Right.
got done.
They like
Yeah.
melt. You know what I
So
mean?
good.
I
El
did
Tiempo
talk to
margaritas.
the general manager at Uchi though the other day
Yeah?
again, and I'm trying to get them to sponsor the show.
that's Chuck's place, man.
Oh, Uchi's
Shit,
my
I went there with
place.
Chuck the other day. Like
Yeah.
we didn't even order. They just started bringing food out.
Nice.
They're like, this is the
Uchi's
Chuck special.
That's cool.
freaking
That's
best
really
place
cool.
in the world. I want to get them to sponsor our show. He did tell me we need to go talk to him about doing a couple episodes from Uchi.
I'm
In
down.
That's
fact,
cool.
They
I'm
set up
down.
a new what is it called, Amikaze?
Yo, yeah.
they
The
set
back
up a new
room's
one in
nice.
the back. And
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
why don't you come do some shows out here?
Nice.
We should do one during the Namikaze. That'd be sick. Do like a special edition.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Let's do it, man.
Just
I have
tell
no
them to
idea
pick a
what
date.
Namikaze is.
It's like a little back room where the chef they have like a set menu, right?
Like 8 seats.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Super kind of intimate, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah.
And chef's right there, you know, and he's got like kind of a set menu, he or she, and they're bringing the food out. It's
Typically like one piece at a time.
Right.
Usually you eat it almost immediately.
Right.
That's kind of like the tradition. But like all the highest end places in the world are that kind of like setting, right?
Nice.
It's not like a restaurant where you walk in and like buy rolls or even like sit at a table. It's typically at a bar around
Right.
I like it.
the sushi stuff.
It's super
Sounds
dope.
great.
Dude. Super
All right,
dope.
next time I
Uchi's
come.
incredible though. Nick, give me a bigger heads up and we'll
Okay.
get it all planned out.
Sounds
and
good.
this guy's schedule's like freaking tight. Everybody's want to talk to Steve Jobs and it's like, man, Austin, find some time. I barely made the cut to get invited to dinner, but thankfully my boy Marshall, he's like, man, does Austin know that we're boys? I was like, I don't know, man. I don't
Hey.
know.
I had to check.
No, man. He's just a nice dude, you know?
But yeah, he said no. JLB's my boy. So I was like, all right, good.
I'm like, come on, it's Marshall. But no, it's good. I didn't get to go. My daughter ended up getting sick, but
How's she doing?
she's fine.
Good.
She's laid up today. She had fever and all that, but she's good. She's 16. She can handle herself. So
She's old.
yeah, she's old. But
Austin, thanks for coming, dude.
yes, awesome.
Guys,
Thanks for
real
coming.
pleasure.